Okay, so bit of a quickie today, but I just wanted to talk about a little game that some of you may have heard of, and that is called Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition Remastered. Now, I know I've spoken about this game ad nauseum already on this channel, but I wanted to talk about a specific angle, and that is the whole disc situation. Are we going to get a disc? Are we not going to get a disc? Who knows? Probably not. However, in light of Sony's most recent announcement to essentially can physical production or physical discs in 2028, I just kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit. What could the future look like for Dynasty Warriors? Who knows? Digital. That's basically the future, right? But yeah, so ever since this game was announced, so it was announced ages ago, and it was originally meant to come out in March, which is crazy to think about. That's like 4 months ago already. However, with the most recent announcement or the most recent trailer, I believe it was at State of Play, I think from memory, it was just over a month ago, and the final release date was announced, which is October 1st of this year, 2026, and that is coming to the PlayStation 5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. I believe it's coming to the Switch 2 as well. I don't think it's coming to the Switch 1. I saw a comment somewhere on a previous video where someone mentioned that it was meant to originally come to the Switch, but then that got canned. Either way, so very shortly after that announcement, the people online, they put their detective hats on and they very quickly realized that there didn't seem to be any method of pre-ordering this game as a physical copy, essentially, except in certain Asian-specific regions. So I believe there's a website, I believe it's Play Asia, where you can actually pre-order a physical version of the standard edition. And that upset a fair few people. Everyone's just like, what the fuck? Why do we not have a physical edition in the West? And I mean, let's explore that for a moment. Koei is no stranger to just releasing digital versions of their games globally, or at least outside of Japan. But let's just take a look at some examples here. So in 2024, we got Samurai Warriors 4DX. So that was released on PC. So of course, it was just on Steam. It wasn't physical. However, I believe it was 5 years earlier, so in 2019, Japan actually already had Samurai Warriors 4DX, which came out on the PS4 and I believe Switch, and that was a physical release. And then you've also got like the most recent game release from Koei in the Warriors kind of space, and that is Warriors Abyss. That is a digital only game. You can only download that online. And there are other examples as well. I believe there's certain versions of Warriors Orochi 3 and 3 Ultimate where you could get it on some consoles, but not others. I believe the PS3 and the PS Vita or something like that only got digital versions. But I'll give a personal example as well. So a few years ago, so I have the hard copy disc of Samurai Warriors 2. So that is on my Xbox 360 Sweet. And that came out, I believe, on the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox 360, maybe the original Xbox, I'm not too sure. I know that there's technically like a PS3 version, like in Japan only. And, you know, I guess to speak to that as well real quick, I mean, I know that Japan does get a lot of games that we actually don't get in the West as well. We're talking Samurai Warriors 3 Empires, or 3Z, or 3 Extreme Legends, or Musou Orochi Z. There's a lot of games that don't make their way to the West or the rest of the world. However, as far as digital goes, the Extreme Legends expansion of Samurai Warriors 2, that was released on a hard disk or a disc for the PlayStation 2. However, if you wanted to get that for the Xbox 360, you actually could, but it had to be downloaded on the Xbox Marketplace for the Xbox 360. Now, I was fortunate enough to have realized that, and I downloaded it years ago, but I think it was like maybe 3 years ago now. I think it was like 2023, 2024, Xbox had shut down the Xbox 360 Marketplace, which means that if you haven't purchased the Xbox 360 version of the Extreme Legends expansion digitally, you cannot access that content unless you get it on the PlayStation 2. That is pretty shitty. That sucks. And I made a post about this like last week. Another example is Dynasty Warriors 7 Empires. Now, I know that the folks in Europe and Japan and whatnot, like they got a physical version of the game, and that's awesome. But here in Australia and in the States, it was digital only. So the only way you could download it was basically from the PlayStation 3 store. Now, with Sony's most recent announcement to start closing the PlayStation 3 and I believe the PSP store over the course of the next year. It's starting as of next month in certain regions. I think more broadly by July 2027, that's all getting shut down. So if, say, someone in my circumstance doesn't get online and buy that game at least before July 2027, well, there's just no way I can basically get it unless I'm lucky enough to find a scarce copy, like a European copy maybe, or even a Japanese copy on eBay or something like that. Maybe it's not scarce, I haven't checked it out. The point is, with all these examples that I'm hurling your way, Koei is no stranger to releasing digital-only versions of their games. So it isn't really a surprise to me if it is the case that Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition, Remaster, whatever we want to call it, is going to be digital only, at least for the rest of the world. The thing that stings a little bit about this, though, is that it also appears that there is like a special edition, it's like a treasure box collector's edition for Japan only, and it looks awesome, but again, the rest of the world can't get it. I mean, I'm sure that people can import it and whatnot, but it's just like, okay, so Koei have kind of acknowledged in the past that there's concerns about how popular the series is in the West or outside of Japan. Sure, I mean, I don't have those numbers. I don't really know whether that's true or false. They're the ones in the business, so they would have the best first-hand knowledge, I suppose. So I'm trusting what they're saying there, but it's just a bummer for everyone else. Now, has Koei technically said that we are not getting a physical release in the West or the rest of the world? No, they haven't, but also the silence is deafening. It's been like over a month since the pre-orders went live, and they haven't said anything at all. So I'm going to take that silence as I'm pretty confident they're not going to release a disc version unless, I don't know, man, like this does like ridiculously well, and then they just decide out of nowhere, with the goodness of their own hearts, if they go, you know what, there's going to be some people out there who just really want to collect this disc, so yeah, fuck it, why not? Let's just do a limited release. I don't really see them doing something like that. Now, people online have actually found like a workaround for this situation. So people have found that you can actually import the physical version of this disc in this circumstance. So, I mean, obviously, if you are a collector and that is something that is really important to you, then I think that, go for gold. I think that's awesome. I don't know actually how much that would be. I'm very curious as to how much that would set someone back versus just like pre-ordering it digitally. However, more broadly, I guess that leads me to the bigger issue here, and that is Sony's announcement to start killing games or discs and move everything to digital. So I do feel like this is an inevitability. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but outside of buying older games that never really had that online marketplace, a lot of PlayStation 2 games or early Xbox 360 games, I really don't buy anything physical. Like, basically for this channel, I just buy physical games because most of the Dynasty Warriors series is physical because it's like prehistoric, right? But my day-to-day consumption, any games that I play, it's all digital. I think for the most part, at least for the last 5 years, it's all been digital. But with Sony's announcement, they've essentially said that the data is skewing more towards digital, and it has been year over year, and that is why they're making this decision. The thing that really does suck about this, though, is that there really doesn't seem to be a solution for preservation. So having a physical copy, I mean, it's quite obvious, like having a physical copy of something means that you have a way to preserve this game no matter what. If for some reason Sony decides to walk back a decision or take something off of the PlayStation Store or out of your library, well, first of all, that would really fucking suck. But the thing is, we never know if that could happen. So it's like, how do we know with certainty that the game that we're going to be buying on October 1st is going to permanently stay in our digital libraries? There's been a lot of hubbub or controversy lately, specifically around I think it was like 500 or 550 odd Studio Canal movies that have been pulled from people's libraries that they have either purchased or bought or rented or whatever. And it is pretty crazy that it's just like, okay, well, you can purchase something on this platform, and then Sony can just be like, all right, well, the license has either expired or been revoked, so we're just going to yank this from your library. So that is really shitty. And then also another example that comes to mind when it comes to a game is Forza Horizon 4. That was a game that I played years ago when that first came out, and I believe there really isn't a way that you can buy it unless you get a physical copy of it now off of eBay or something like that. And I believe that the reason for that is because the music licensing or something like that expired. Either way, that's really shitty. And I don't really see anything like that happening with the Dynasty Warriors series or, any of Koei's games. However, just because I can't foresee that happening doesn't mean that it also can't happen. we don't really have that certainty in place. And it really makes me curious, I guess, as to what the consumer trend or choices are going to be when we really don't have many other options to engage with this content or these games. So if it's all going to be going digital, I mean, there's going to be no choice but to go digital, right? and that makes things tricky, especially for collectors. And look, big assumption here from myself, I do tend to think that most people skew digital these days. It's just convenient, it's easy. Is it the most cost-effective method of buying your games? No, not necessarily. I mean, people have proven that through reselling or retail, you can find like cheap physical copies on sale or whatnot, but it's like a convenience thing, right? However, I do also believe, and maybe another wild assumption here, is that a lot of the Dynasty Warriors community specifically, or the Koei Warriors community, also tend to, feel very nostalgic about this series and probably do have a lot of physical copies of a lot of the older games, like basically Dynasty Warriors, at least 2 through 8. Maybe not so much the games that have come out in like the PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5 kind of era, but I do think that there would be a large percentage of people here who love the collector element of this series. And of course, more specifically with Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition, I mean, it seems like that is not really an option for most people outside of Japan or other Asia-specific regions, unless you go out of your way to import it to you, which who knows how much that costs. But then, of course, just in the long term, like after that, like what happens after this game? What happens after 2028? It would be really great if we were given some sense of like reassurance. If there would be some sort of like permanent digital way of preservation. I mean, if there was a solution like that was mandated or put in place, that'd be amazing. But I just don't really know or see how that would work, but I guess time will tell. So overall, do I think Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition is going to get a physical release in the West or the rest of the world outside of Japan or other Asia-specific regions? No, I don't think we are. I just don't think we are. I think everyone's obviously... I think everyone's excited. I don't also want this to take away from the excitement of the release of this game. Like, I'm still fucking excited as all hell to be able to sink my teeth into this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. However, obviously, it just doesn't help that... Just the gaming landscape at the moment it's just a fucking hellscape, and it's so depressing at the moment, and it just feels like it's just one bad thing after another. And I really hope that however long this shitty period takes, whether it's months, whether it's years or whatever, I really hope that we come out the other end and we start actually having some positive technology and innovation within the space, so that way it's more pro-consumer again, especially when it comes to game preservation, because this whole situation more broadly about the fact that it's like, okay, this might not be getting a physical disc release, but at least if you're one of those people that really, really want a physical copy of this game, whether it's for concerns of preservation, whether it's because you're a collector, at least there is an option. I mean, it sucks that you have to go out of your way to import a non-localized version. However, you do have the option there. It's just a pain in the ass. However, not too far ahead in the future, we're just not going to have an option whatsoever. Like, what if Koei decides randomly, okay, you know what, we're just going to pull Warriors Abyss. If they did that, there is no physical way that we can play it anymore. That sucks. Now, do I think the broader issue with Sony basically confirming that they're going to be killing the physical disc production as of 2028 for their games, do I think that that's shitty? Fuck yeah, I do. Even though it doesn't necessarily change how I purchase my games, because again, I would just be buying my games 100% digital. That's just how I do it. But it's bad for preservation, ownership, it's bad for collectors, and it's also bad for people with shitty internet. I mean, even though it's probably in a really good place for most people these days, there's still going to be people with shitty internet, and that's just how it is, right? I don't know. It's like a really tricky spot, right? Like, I would rather have the game digital only rather than like not having it at all. But then at the same time, who's to say that we're guaranteed to have it forever, you know? So it's like a double-edged sword. I also feel like this is going to be like the death of like collector's editions and stuff like that for games. And I know that that is obviously massive in Japan, but there are going to be people who want to have special editions. And not to be a bit of a negative Nelly here, but it's just like, I don't think I'm absolutely jonesing to get the special edition or the ultimate edition or whatever for the Dynasty Warriors 3 Complete Edition. I just don't think there's enough in there to really make me want to go out of my way to buy it. I really do love when games do like statues and like all these like, art books and stuff like that. But having like a digital art book or whatever, I'm just like, yeah, it's just not the same thing for me. I don't know. This whole digital only situation as well, that could potentially have broader shitty implications. It's like once everything's digital, it's just like, well, what's stopping Sony from just fucking upping the pricing of everything? Basically, or like how much they're collecting from consumers and not really like, you know, passing that off to developers. Who knows? Like it could get really rough, really shit. And I know that this will also add fuel to the fire with the whole stop killing games movement, which I think is a good thing. I'm really curious to see how everything is going to play out. I don't see Sony voluntarily walking back this decision, and it means that, well, fuck. I don't know how many Koei Tecmo games that we're going to get between now and 2028, but this very well could be the last somewhat physical release of a Koei game, for all we know. It really just depends. Anyway, that's enough waffling for me. I thought it was going to be a bit of a quickie, but it turns out I had a lot to say, and I mean, it's just general thoughts and feelings and sentiment. I mean, fuck, if you gel with the fact that this is digital only, or like if you care or don't care or whatever, I guess all of this comes down to, I think, personal preference at the end of the day. But I think anyone can see that this whole going digital only thing is a little bit shitty, even though that is also simultaneously kind of the evolution of things or how everything is kind of going anyway. So curious to hear your thoughts. I really appreciate you guys watching this video, and of course, I'll see you in the next one.